Captain Mark Goodwin of the UES Horizon slouched in his high-backed chair, watching the endless parade of stars on the view screen. His fourth deep space mission was proving to be the most uneventful yet, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Uneventful was good. Uneventful meant safe. Uneventful meant everyone would make it home in one piece. "Captain?" called Lieutenant Rodriguez from the communications station. "I'm picking up an unusual signal at coordinates 227 Mark 389. Mark straightened in his chair. "Define unusual, Lieutenant." It's not matching any Federation signatures, sir. The wavelength patterns are unlike anything I've seen before." "Hostile?" "Not necessarily, sir, just..." The ship lurched with bone-rattling force, throwing Mark sideways as his safety harness cut painfully into his shoulder. The bridge exploded in a shower of sparks as conduits ruptured overhead, raining molten metal onto his crew members, who dove for cover. Red alert klaxons wailed as the emergency lighting bathed everything in a crimson glow. "That felt pretty damn hostile to me! God damn it!" Mark shouted over the alarms. "Shields up! Battle stations! Damage report!" "Port thruster array is offline!" yelled Chief Engineer Kapoor through the comms. "Hull breach on Deck 7. Emergency force fields engaged. Whatever hit us, it wasn't standard weaponry. Our sensors didn't even detect it coming." Her voice was nearly drowned out by the sounds of rushing feet and shouted orders in engineering. "On screen!" Mark ordered. The view screen flickered to life, revealing their attackers. Sleek, quicksilver ships that moved fast, elegantly, their hulls rippling like liquid metal as they executed impossibly tight maneuvers. There were 5 of them, arranged in a perfect pentagram formation around the horizon. "Sir?" called Commander Harris, his second-in-command, as he wiped blood from a cut above his eye. "We're outgunned and outnumbered. That wasn't a conventional weapon. They're using some kind of gravitational distortion tech. Our shields aren't calibrated for that." "Ensign Chen, evasive pattern Delta 6, Mark commanded. "Rodriguez, hold them on all frequencies." The horizon lurched into motion, the inertial dampeners struggling to compensate, as Chen executed a desperate spiral maneuver. For a moment, it seemed they might break free of the encirclement. Then a second blast hit them, worse than the first. Mark was thrown forward against his restraints hard enough to force the air from his lungs. A support beam crashed down mere inches from communications, sending Rodriguez diving to the deck. Fire suppression systems engaged, filling part of the bridge with white fog. "Direct hit to our main reactor!" Kapoor's voice crackled through the damaged comm system. "We're losing containment. I can hold it together for maybe 3 minutes before we need to eject the core." "Shields at 9%, Harris reported. "Weapon systems compromised. We can't take another hit like that." Mark's mind raced through their options, each one bleaker than the last. "Open a channel. Let's see if they're in a talking mood." "Channel open, sir," Rodriguez replied, having scrambled back to her damaged station. Blood trickled from her ear. Mark stood, straightening his singed uniform jacket. "This is Captain Mark Goodwin of the United Earthship Horizon. We are on a peaceful mission of exploration. Please cease your attack and identify yourselves." The view screen remained filled with stars and the alien vessels. No response came. "Sir," said Rodriguez, "they're not responding, but they're scanning us. I think they're preparing to..." A strange shimmering light engulfed the bridge. Mark felt a peculiar tingling sensation washing over his body, as if every atom was being individually catalogued. The last thing he saw before consciousness slipped away was his crew dissolving into particles of light around him. Mark awoke to a sharp smell. The surface beneath him was uncomfortably hard, and when he tried to move his arms, he found them restrained by bands of energy that hummed with a strange blue light. "Well," he muttered to himself, "this is less than ideal." The room around him was pristine white, with smooth, curved walls that seemed to glow with their own inner light. No visible doors or windows broke the seamless surface. He was alone, strapped to what appeared to be an examination table. A seam suddenly appeared in the wall, widening into a doorway. Through it stepped the strangest being Mark had ever encountered. The alien stood approximately 7 feet tall, with silvery skin that appeared to shimmer like liquid metal, remarkably similar to their ships. It had no visible nose, but 6 eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern dominated its face, all blinking independently. Where a mouth should have been, there was a small vibrating membrane that pulsed with bioluminescent light. "Human captain," the membrane vibrated, somehow producing perfectly understandable English. "You are now property of the Lifraxian Dominion." Mark blinked. "I'm sorry, I'm what now?" "Property," the alien repeated. "Your vessel violated Dominion space. The penalty is servitude." "Look," Mark said, reasonably. "There must be some misunderstanding. We had no idea this was your territory. There were no markers, no warnings." "Irrelevant," the alien interrupted. "Ignorance of territorial boundaries does not exempt you from consequences." Mark sighed. This was going to be a long day. "Where is my crew?" "Processing." "Processing? What does that mean?" "They are being prepared for assignment to appropriate labor functions based on physical capabilities and intellectual assessment." Mark tugged at his restraints. "Listen, what's your name?" The alien appeared confused by the question. Its membrane quivered slightly before responding. "I am Security Coordinator Zix-427 Delta." "That's a mouthful. Mind if I call you Zix?" "That is not my designation." "But it's part of your designation, right?" The alien paused, its 6 eyes blinking in an unsynchronized pattern. "That is accurate." "Great. Look, Zix, there's been a serious mistake. Humans aren't meant to be property. We're a spacefaring species with rights recognized by numerous interstellar treaties." "We have no treaties with humans," Zix stated flatly. "That's because we never met before. This is first contact between our species. This is supposed to be a historic moment of cooperation and understanding, not whatever this is." Zix stared at him impassively. "Your perspective is noted, but irrelevant to your current status." Mark suppressed a groan. He needed a new approach. Something about this alien's responses seemed off. Too rigid. "I demand to speak to whoever's in charge," Mark insisted. "I will convey your request to the commander." "Thank you. I'd appreciate that." Mark nodded, then added, "Hey, before you go, mind doing me a solid and loosening these restraints a bit?" Zix froze in place, all 6 eyes widening. "You wish me to transform into a solid for you?" Mark bit back a laugh. No. It's just an expression. It means, do me a favor." "Why would you not simply request a favor directly? Why reference phase changes in matter?" "It's just how humans talk sometimes. We don't always say exactly what we mean." The alien's membrane pulsed rapidly. "This seems potentially dangerous." "Maybe to you. To us, it's just normal." Zix seemed genuinely disturbed by this revelation. "I will inform the commander of this concerning development." With that, Zix turned and exited through the seamless wall, which closed behind him, leaving no trace of a door. Mark lay alone, contemplating his options, which were admittedly few. The restraints wouldn't budge, and even if they did, he had nowhere to go. His best hope was to somehow convince these Lifraxians that humans weren't to be trifled with. But that was slightly difficult to do after your ship was easily taken over. Several hours later, Mark found himself in what appeared to be some sort of conference room. Freed from his restraints, but surrounded by 4 Lifraxian guards, with weapons that resembled metallic tentacles wrapped around their forearms. He sat across from a Lifraxian wearing more elaborate body armor than the others, presumably the commander. "Human Captain," the commander began. "Security Coordinator Zix-427 Delta informs me you believe there has been an error." "That's right. Commander Krell 093 Omega." "Commander Krell, then. We had no intention of violating your territory. We're explorers, not invaders." Quell's membrane vibrated slowly. Intent is irrelevant. Actions determine consequences. Mark nodded thoughtfully. I understand. On Earth we have a saying, actions speak louder than words, but we also believe in proportionate response. Explain this concept. It means the punishment should fit the crime. If someone steps on your foot, you don't cut off their leg. The commander's eyes all widened simultaneously. You have engaged in limb severance as punishment for podiatric transgression. Mark blinked. No, that's just an expression. A metaphor. Metaphor, the commander repeated with uncertainty. Your language contains inaccuracies? Not inaccuracies. Figures of speech. Ways of expressing ideas through comparison. The Lithraxians in the room exchanged glances, their membranes quivering in what Mark guessed was their form of whispered conversation. Security Coordinator X427 Delta reported this concerning linguistic phenomenon. Are you claiming that humans routinely communicate without literal precision? All the time, Mark confirmed. We're knee-deep in metaphors and idioms. The Lithraxian guards shifted uncomfortably, their weapons twitching. The commander looked genuinely disturbed. Human, your knees are clearly visible and not submersed in anything. Mark fought back a smile. See, that's another expression. It means we use a lot of metaphors. How do your kind achieve effective communication with such ambiguity? Quell demanded, seeming genuinely distressed. Actually, it makes us more effective communicators. We can express complex ideas rapidly through shared cultural understanding. This is most concerning, said one of the guards. Humans could say one thing while meaning another. They could deceive. The prisoner will be returned to containment until we determine how to process a species that speaks in non-literal communication, Quell declared, signaling to the guards. Mark's patience finally snapped. Being blown up, captured, and now lectured on human language by silver-skinned aliens was too much. Oh, for crying out loud! You want literal? Here's literal. You can take your processing and eat shit! Mark shouted, rising from his chair. The room froze. The guard's weapons snapped up, but Quell held up a hand to stop them, his membrane fluttering rapidly. Eat excrement? Quell's voice wavered, with what sounded like genuine horror. Is this a traditional human diplomatic offering? Our species does not consume biological waste material. Mark stared at them, dumbfounded. Then understanding dawned on him. No, It's not a literal suggestion, it's an insult. It means I'm angry. The commander's 6 eyes blinked in rapid sequence. You express anger by suggesting impossible digestive activities? Why not simply state I am experiencing anger toward you? A guard leaned over to Quell. Commander, should we add consumption of waste to the list of concerning human behaviors? Yes. Quell nodded solemnly, along with their apparent obsession with severing limbs over foot placement. I do not understand humans at all, Commander. Mark dragged a hand down his face in frustration, then suddenly stopped. An idea was forming. A completely ridiculous, possibly brilliant idea. These aliens took everything literally, and if that was the case... You know what? Mark said, his tone suddenly calmer. If you're so interested in understanding humans, there's a better way than interrogating me. Explain, demanded Quell. The best way to understand humans might be to study our entertainment media. Our films and shows reveal a lot about how we think and communicate. The commander considered the proposal for a couple of seconds. Your suggestion has merit. Perfect, Mark thought. Time for phase 2. Mark sat in a large viewing chamber alongside Commander Quell and several other high-ranking Lithraxians. Apparently they're scientists and politicians, a computer in his hands. Thankfully, the UES Horizon carried an extensive entertainment database for the crew's long voyages. Mark had carefully selected 2 particular collections for this special screening. What we're about to watch, Mark explained solemnly, are documentary accounts of some of Earth's most legendary warriors. The first film began playing on the last screen before them. John Wick. Mark watched the Lithraxians' reactions more than the movie itself. Their silvery skin rippled with distress during the nightclub scene, as John efficiently dispatched dozens of armed men with brutal precision. One junior officer actually fled the room during the scene where John killed 3 men with a pencil. A pencil! When the film ended, Krell turned to Mark, his membrane vibrating so rapidly it was barely visible. This single human eliminated 77 armed opponents? Over an infant canine, Mark confirmed gravely. And that was just the beginning. In the sequels, his kill count rises exponentially. And this is common behavior for humans when their domestic animals are harmed? Oh, John Wick actually showed remarkable restraint. He's known as the Boogeyman, but even the Boogeyman fears someone else. The Lithraxians leaned forward in unison, their skin rippling with anxiety. Who? Mark smiled. That would be Chuck Norris. For the next hour, the aliens watched in stunned silence as Mark played a compilation of Walker Texas Ranger clips, interspersed with the most outlandish Chuck Norris facts. Chuck Norris counted to infinity. Twice. One of the scientists whimpered. When Chuck Norris does a push-up, he doesn't push himself up. He pushes the Earth down. A security officer whispered something to Quell, who silenced him with a gesture. Chuck Norris can kill 2 stones with 1 bird. That defies all physical laws, protested one of the scientists. Death once had a near Chuck Norris experience. At this, the entire Lithraxian contingent began vibrating in what Mark assumed was profound distress. Are you suggesting, Krell finally asked, his voice unnaturally strained, that humans have master control over fundamental forces and mortality itself? Mark shrugged. We're a complex species, Commander, and highly adaptable. I should add that we have a whole bunch of defenders, superhumans like John Wick and Chuck Norris, ready to sacrifice themselves for Earth. People made out of iron, mutants, gods with hammers, green rage monsters that grow stronger the angrier they get. The Lithraxian scientist collapsed to the floor, his membrane fluttering weakly. Impossible, protested another officer. No species could evolve such capabilities. Just imagine, Mark continued, what will happen when Earth discovers that you've taken one of their ships captive. Humans have a particular response to perceived threats. We call it going nuclear. Another metaphor you might want to look up. The room fell silent as the Lithraxians processed this revelation. The commander's membrane quivered rapidly as he conferred with his officers in their native language. More footage was downloaded and reviewed. Minutes passed. Finally, he turned back to Mark. Captain Goodwin, there has been a significant misunderstanding. Oh? Mark raised an eyebrow. Upon further review of interstellar borders, we have determined that the sector where we encountered your vessel is, in fact, contested territory, not definitively Lithraxian space. Mark nodded seriously. I see. An understandable error. Yes, Krell continued, his membrane vibrating in what seemed like relief. Therefore, your violation was not, strictly speaking, a violation at all. You and your crew are free to depart. That's very reasonable of you, Commander, though I should warn you. Yes? My report of this incident will have to mention that we were attacked without provocation. Earth's military command might send investigators. Possibly even specialists. The threat hung in the air. One of the guards actually took a step backward. That would not be necessary, Krell said quickly. In fact, as a gesture of goodwill between our peoples, the Lithraxian Dominion would like to offer a treaty of non-aggression and mutual respect. And Reparations for the damage to your vessel. Mark pretended to consider this. I suppose that would help smooth things over, especially if you could provide some navigational data to help us avoid any future misunderstandings. Absolutely! The commander seemed almost eager now. We shall prepare the documents immediately and arrange for your crew's return. Mark was escorted from the room with surprising deference. As the door sealed behind them, a collective exhale rippled through the Lithraxian command staff. Quell's entire form vibrated slightly, as he closed all 6 eyes and let out something similar to a sigh. Lucky for us, he said, that we stumbled upon Earth's weakest human.